Yeah. So I used to work in the charity sector,
Hmm.
organising challenge events for charities. So, and I would look after all the marathon runners and things like that. So I was giving people advice on marathons, and I felt like a bit of a fraud because I'd never actually run one myself. So I then that's kind of I decided to run a marathon just to get the experience of what it was like, so that when I was talking to people, I knew a little bit more what I was talking about. So that's kind of was the first step, and then I quickly realized that running on the road wasn't really for me. And I mean, back then it was just 10 years ago, and ultras weren't very popular at that point. Are you still there? You look like you're breaking up a
No,
bit.
really?
Yes, you're still there. It's just the screen, don't worry.
Okay.
As long as you can hear
I can
me,
hear you
I will
perfectly, mate.
continue.
Yeah.
Um, good. So, yeah, there weren't many ultras at that time, and I decided to create my own. So I ran across Scotland in 5 days, 30 miles a day, staying in bed and breakfast and things like that. And that's kind of where it all started. And then I started doing races, and I always had this dream of doing the Marathon de Sable,
Sorry, mate.
the
Um,
race we spoke.
I got to you were doing 30 miles a day for 5 days across Scotland, staying in B&Bs. Then you cracked up.
Yeah. And then I started doing different races and things like that. And I always had this dream of doing Marathon de Sable, um, since seeing it on Trans World Sport as a kid. Do you remember Trans World Sport?
Too, yeah.
Yeah. And so I just got to a point where I thought, sod it, let's just give it a go.
Jesus.
And
You
that
wanted
was
to do
kind
the
of
Marathon
the
de Sable ever since you were a kid, seeing it on TV.
yeah. Just I remember
Jesus.
seeing it on Trans World Sport, and as I was waiting for the South American football to come on or whatever it was, and it just always stuck in my mind. I didn't even know what it was, to be honest. And and yeah, eventually I just thought, let's do it.
Fair enough.
And then it all got a bit out of control after that.
Just cascaded.
Um, yeah, and it's just always trying to find like the next hardest thing, the next hardest thing, which is generally what we do as ultra runners, most of us.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And so that's how it kicked off, really. So just started out challenging yourself to do marathon de sable, but prior to that, obviously, encouraging people to do marathons, even though you hadn't done them yourself. And then it just went out
Yeah,
of control from there. Bloody hell! And okay, so
and here we
yeah,
are.
and here you are, and here you are. And so, how did that then lead you to start running adventures? Then,
So I kind of came up with the idea when I was in the desert, actually, doing the Marathon de Sable. Um,
well, the first time.
and it yeah, so it kind of stemmed from the experience of training for MDS, as we call it. I came across a lot of coaches that were very like, I don't know, a bit elitist and, like your cliche running coach, I guess. Tracksuit and I don't know. It just the I'm not going to name names, of course,
Obviously.
but I'm sure they're all brilliant coaches, but they didn't the way they were kind of conduct. Not all of them, but some of them were conducting themselves. It didn't really sit well with me. Um, so I decided and a lot of people were starting to ask me for advice on training for things. So I decided to set up Run Adventures and start coaching people, and doing guided runs as well, which I mean, guided runs are quite popular these days, but back then they weren't even really a thing. Um, and it was just a bit of a hobby business really. And but they just started growing as these things do. And but yeah, the coaching thing, I wanted to be myself and not try and act up like this elitist coach or anything like that. Just be real.
Yeah.
and that's kind of what I wanted from running adventures, and that's kind of what it's been ever since. It's you get what you get with me, and I'm honest and blunt with people, but in a hopefully a supportive way. And um, but yeah, it's you don't get any kind of. I wouldn't, if you were a client, I wouldn't just give you a load of scientific running jargon just to impress you. I say it how it is.
What kind of scientific running jargon would that entail exactly?
I mean, you could talk about kind of all these heart rate zones and training in different heart rate zones, um, and all the different diets and things like that. And could talk about it all day long. But a lot of people don't want that. They just want to be told what to do, um, or advised what to do. So that was kind of course, I've like done all my study and everything, and I know I know I can if people want that stuff, I can give it to them. But most people that come to me, they just want to be told, what do I have to do tomorrow? How far do I have to run? What do I need to be doing? What shoes do I need to buy and stuff like that? So it's
Yeah.
we keep it as simple as
Oh, that's
possible.
good.
Try not to
Well,
overcomplicate
you
it.
don't want to, yeah. I mean, a lot of the time you do encounter coaches that do the whole extra or over motivation. Sometimes I used to play quite a bit of competitive tennis when I was younger, so up until about 16,
Yeah,
17. And I had a variety of different coaches. And the best ones that I had were the ones that were slightly technical but didn't put too much pressure on you. Whereas I had others in the
yeah,
past that would be over pushy, over motivating, some who just made too many jokes. I mean, I'm trying to
yeah,
take
yeah.
this seriously, bro. And then crack a few wisecracks, and you'd be sitting there thinking, well, can I play tennis now? So no, it's good that you have that kind of approach. Otherwise, people do tend to lose a bit of interest or tend to look elsewhere. So
Yeah.
as um, as you started doing the guided tours, where was the first ever guided tour that you did?
So just in my local trails, North Downs Way.
Hmm.
I started doing it here, and obviously I still do. Not at the moment, but generally I still do a lot of runs around this area. But now we go all around the UK, and even I do a lot of trail weekends. So we go to places like Portugal and Mallorca and Madeira, um, go for a weekend and have a lot of fun. And again, it's not like a training camp. It's we go and have fun on the trails. The main thing is to have fun and to socialize with like-minded people. Um, so we'll go out running for a few hours, and then in the afternoon we might go to the beach, or um, depending on where we are, we'll depend what we do. But in Portugal, for example, we'll go to the beach, and then we'll go to the square, and we'll have a few beers and have some amazing food and stuff like that. So it's um, it's all about, again, having lots of fun and meeting new people and socializing with new people, and um, but with a lot of trail running thrown in. And when we're on the runs, we stop a lot. So the one that sticks in my mind fairly recently, I do a trip in Mallorca every year, every week. I was going to say then that would be good. Every year, um, and we kind of ran up this mountain, hour and a half up or whatever it was. But then we just sat at the top for about 45 minutes, just chilled out. Um, so it's not about times and things like that. It's just about enjoying the trails, and then we just sat there watching the eagles and the vultures fly around below us, and that for me is what it's all about. It was just enjoying each other's company and having fun.
Yeah, I've seen some of the photos on the Instagram. They look absolutely spectacular. So it's definitely what drew me into wanting to speak to you in the first place.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
but just going into the more specifics of the business as well, the name
yeah,
running adventures. Obviously, it does
mm,
what it says on the tin. It's very simple and it cuts through all the crap.
yeah.
Did you ever think that you were going to call it something different? Did you have any other ideas that came to mind?
I don't think I did,
Good.
and I can't. I don't even know where I came up with their name from. um, but I think there was a local punk band in my area at the time, which was I can't even remember what they were called, but it was something Adventures, and I thought, oh, I stick running on the front of that, and it works quite well. So I'm I do wonder if that's where I think that's where it came from, but yeah, but then obviously when you come up with a name, you think, oh yeah, that's cool. But then if you're sensible, you then sit down and think about kind of how will it work with marketing and going forward. And for me, it worked perfectly because, as we spoke about before, I do a lot of things under that kind of running adventures brand, but everything kind of sits under it quite nicely. Whereas I kind of I think the other I couldn't tell you what the other names were, but they were kind of a lot more specific, maybe towards guided trail runs or coaching or whatever it was. Which then, of course, all the other bits and bobs wouldn't have made much sense. So when I did come up with a name, I do remember sitting down and kind of writing it down and then thinking, okay, will this cover everything that I want to potentially do going forwards? Which it has done. And I think that was important to do.
Sorry, Paul. We're just going to have to go back again. You were just saying you were writing down you were writing down running adventures, and you're just trying to figure out whether it was going to encompass everything you wanted to do. Then you cut out.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically that. So I think it's really important to do that when you're coming up with a brand. Because the fun bit is coming up with a name, and it would be very easy to you think, oh, that's cool, and just to run with it. Well, that was not intended to have fun.
Should have said a thing,
But
mate.
of
You should
course,
have
you've
said a
got to.
thing and just let it run.
Yeah, yeah. But it was. I felt it was important that I sat down and kind of thought about, okay, this is a cool name that I like, but will it actually work for everything that I want to do going forward? Will all these little aspects work under that brand? And even I was thinking about things that I had no intention of doing in the first few years, but maybe going, further ahead, things that I might do, like the trail weekends. I didn't do them to begin with, but it was always kind of something that I thought maybe could happen in the future. So yeah, it was kind of a process of sitting down and making sure that all worked.
Okay. So it's essentially like, irrespective of where you are in your journey, I mean, if you're a startup, essentially, if you're quite early on and you've got a vision for your brand, you really do need to think about all the little things you want to do with it and make sure that you do have a name that can encompass it. Admittedly, you can go through a rebranding process later down the line, but essentially that would end up losing a lot of customers, I think, a lot of brand visibility as well. You've ended up over the last 6 years to build, I imagine, quite a relatively strong brand where within the
Yeah.
ultra running community. So that's obviously done you a world of wonders.